Vinland Saga is so much more than a manga. It is a journey of peace and kindness, pain and agony, war and revenge, vows and regrets, repentance and growth. And I'm just glad I was able to witness this journey. Thanks, Yukimura. So first off, I'm going to start with a quick recap of the first two seasons, which is the first 100 chapters of the manga, and the things I've caught on after rereading, so bear with me please, I'm slow, it takes a minute. So the gist of the first season is, Floki pays Ashalat to kill Thors. Thorfinn witnesses this and for the next 10ish years follows Ashalat to take revenge. And he does that in his own way. He wants a fair and square duel, and he's rewarded these duels whenever he kills someone important or carries a special mission. So in these 10 years, he's in a way manipulated to do these horrible stuff that he himself doesn't enjoy. He isn't the Forkel type who enjoys battles, he doesn't fully understand what he's doing, he's blinded by rage. And we see this firsthand in the chapter where the old lady takes him in, feeds him, tends to his wounds, and even covers for him. But at the end of the day, Thorfinn does his mission. Even though he warns them, nothing really changes. And this chapter is insanely good. Go reread it. I had chills rereading that shit. So anyways, along his journey, Thorfinn meets a very important character, Canute. As a character, Canute is very similar to Thorfinn, but different in many ways. At first, he's so timid that he's even scared to give a speech, and he's a goddamn king candidate, it should just come with it. But I mean, it makes sense, he's a Christian, which is uncommon for Norsemen, and he believes in these teachings of being kind and whatnot. But as he journeys with Ashalat and Thorfinn, he starts to change because he sees the ugly side of the world, he isn't sheltered here. So the biggest change comes with Ragnar's death and his conversation with Willibald about love. And the cool thing about Willibald's point of view of love is that it comes from hearing a story about Thors, which is just an amazing circle. Like, that is just peak storytelling to me, man. Yukimura, you son of a bitch, you done did it again. So overall, Canute goes from a very nice and loving Christian boy to a redditor that hates God and wants to create his own paradise no matter the cost. And I genuinely love this character, and his development makes so much sense, and in my opinion that is what Yukimura does best. He just has a way for you to care for his characters, cause they genuinely have growth. Like, I'm not talking about, oh, I change a little bit in 2 billion chapters. It's genuine growth and change in perspective. And I'll touch upon this subject in the later parts of this video, cause he just does it back to back and better. So now let's move on to Ashalat, because if I don't talk about him soon, I'm going to get skinned alive. He's everybody's favorite character, myself included. So when it comes to Ashalat, he's different from Canute. It's not growth that makes him such a lovable character. It is a mix of his personality and his cunningness. At first, you may not like him as much because you don't know much about him, but as you get to know him, you kinda realize he has a similar worldview to Canute. When he was a child, he believed in a hero that would come and save him and his mom, and that hero is basically King Arthur. But as he grows a little bit older, he realizes the only one who can save them is himself. So from a very early age, we see how far he is willing to go for his goals with the murder of his father. And he's like that throughout the whole series, especially towards Wales. From working with the Danes that he hates so much to handpicking the best king candidate for the sake of Wales. And he even slaps the said king candidate, like this guy is a giga chad. And when it comes to his cunningness, we see it throughout the season. From faking an assassination on Canute to giving Gunnar information so he can leak it to Swain, this guy is just the best strategist there is in the series. And not only is he cunning and ruthless, I just like how his fighting style matches his personality. Yeah, he might not be the strongest, but he's definitely the most entertaining to watch, and you cannot deny that. So all these little details together make a really good character, but what makes Ashelad great is his redemption and the way he lets his nuts hang at the end of this season, like literally. When Swain tells him, pick one, Wales or Canute, this fella goes, yeah, fuck all that, I'm picking both. Like, I knew he was willing to go far for his goals, but this far? And I know there are other characters in manga that do this kind of shit, but Ashelad is legit human. He feels like a human. A desperate one, but a human nonetheless. His talk with Ragnar, his speech to Thorfinn, which is the highlight of the season. I legit play that shit daily like it's David Goggins giving me motivation, man. I love this character. But before this becomes a full-on Ashelad video, let's recap the ending of the season in case you forgot. Ashelad kills Swain for the maximum chance of saving Wales and Canute, and he sets the stage up for Canute to avenge his father and ascend to throne. Which he does, and as a result of that, Thorfinn loses it. So in that madness, he tries to kill Canute. He fails, Canute orders the guards to not kill him, and that is where the first season ends. But before I move on to the second season, there are some details that I feel like are not appreciated as much, and I want to talk about them. First off, I love how as soon as the second chapter, Thorfinn talks about being a slave, and if he ever was a slave, that he would kill his captors and run away, which is great foreshadowing and also a great peek inside of a mind of a typical warrior. Which is not what Thorfinn does, but it is the exact thing that someone tries to do in season 2. The second one is about Vinland. In the same chapter that the slavery talks take place, the slave lady talks about a land across the horizon, a land without war, a land without slavery, a land of peace. And that is basically Vinland. Or maybe not. Maybe it's Avalon, maybe it's Britannia, who cares? It is hope. It doesn't have to be an actual place. It is an escape from this hellish reality, and I feel like Yukimura from very early on tried to convey that. The third one is something that probably most people don't care about, but I do, so listen. It is the eyes. Whenever a character has actual resolve, Yukimura changes the way that he draws that character's eyes. He goes from cartoonish to realistic, and we see that in this season with Thors and Canute. So now let's move on to the second season, which are chapters 55 to 100 in the manga. Hold on, before we do though, if you're one of those fellas who didn't like season 2, click the fuck out of this video. This shit is not for you. This was my favorite part about this manga. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but it's just wrong. So fuck off. The second season starts after a 1.5-ish year time skip where we are first introduced to a character named Einar. Einar is a slave that gets bought and brought to this farm where he can earn his freedom. And the way for him to earn this freedom is to make a wheat field, sell the produce to his master until his debt is paid, which is not that bad of a life considering he's a slave, cause slaves are not treated any different than any farm animals, so he's in a way lucky. Also, there's another slave in there that is working for the same goal, and that slave is Thorfinn, but a very different Thorfinn than we know. An empty shell of a man with no goals, a man with regrets. I would even go as far as saying a man with no will to live, which is kind of normal considering the events of season 1. So when Einar meets Thorfinn, he helps him with the work a little bit, but very soon after, he realizes this work is a lot harder than it looked at first. Yeah, sure, growing wheat seems simple at first, but when you have to tear a goddamn forest down to even attempt to plant anything, things suddenly change. Well, at least he has Thorfinn to help him. He has a lot of knowledge about... Oh yeah, he does. Well, at least Einar comes from a family of farmers, so... it's all good. So as these two work together, we start to see the discrimination that they get, mainly from the farmhands, who are ironically enough in a very similar situation to Thorfinn and Einar. They are doing the same work, they are in poverty, the only difference is they are free men. And in their head, that little difference is reason enough to bully these slaves. From taking their food to ruining their crops, in their head it's nothing, and this shit happens in real life too. I'm sure you have experienced it. Some people just belittle others to feel bigger about themselves. It is what it is. So during this bullying, we see how hollow Thorfinn has become. He legit doesn't care about anything, even his life, or at least that's what he thinks, until his life is actually in danger. When Fox and Badger get Thorfinn and Einar for Olmar to experience killing, Thorfinn is like, just leave Einar out of this and kill me and be done with it. And that rubs Fox the wrong way because he's here to prove a point to Olmar and his ego takes a hit from this. So he starts slashing Thorfinn until he shows fear, which he doesn't. So he keeps on slashing, but thankfully Snake is there to save the day. He punches the shit out of Fox and shows Thorfinn that he wants to live. When he tries to cut Thorfinn, Thorfinn reacts. And that causes Thorfinn to question what does he even want to live for? What does he gain by living? He's insanely depressed by this point of the manga. I mean, I didn't even have to say that. We saw it, half his ear got cut off and this fella didn't even flinch. I mean, he was saying shit like me after a game of League at 2 AM, man. He was this close, trust me. But from this point on, the actual battles that matter start. The internal battles, fighting your demons, bettering yourself. Stuff that you can genuinely implement in your actual life. As Thorfinn works on this farm, he starts to see kindness, which is something that he isn't used to. He's been in battles from the age of 6 to 17, 18ish, so when he starts getting these kinds of emotions, he starts to change. They are genuinely kind people in this farm, from Sverkel to Snake to Einar, who in my opinion is the biggest reason for Thorfinn's change. Which is crazy because Thorfinn, or at least who Thorfinn used to be, is the exact type of person that Einar hates, and it's completely valid. He has lost everything he's had to these wars and warriors. But he still forgives Thorfinn, he shows him kindness, he's legit the bigger brother that we would all love to have in our lives. But even amidst all this love, change is very hard, especially for Thorfinn, who feels hollow after Ashelad's death. And it's not that he's angry he couldn't finish him, the problem is that he doesn't feel a hatred towards Ashelad anymore. He tried to protect them. He gave him one of the best goddamn speeches in all manga. Honestly, the best goddamn speech in manga. Also, let's not forget that Ashelad was kind of a father figure to Thorfinn. Maybe not a good one, but definitely one that Thorfinn learned a lot from, even though he probably hates to admit it. So Thorfinn is insanely lost and confused. But luckily for him, my goat is in this farm and he can give him some advice. Okay, I love Einar, but it's not him. Get him the fuck out of my screen. It's Sverkel. So when the old master hears Thorfinn talk about being empty, he gives him really good advice. He tells him being empty means anything can fit inside you. If you want to be reborn, empty is the best way to be, and that's such a good quote, man. Like, Yukimura, stop it. You're just dropping bangers after bangers. There are so many good quotes in this manga. I'm just going to get sticky notes and write them all over my walls, man. And sorry if I'm geeking too much. These little details, these little quotes, are the reason that this manga is my favorite manga of all time. So I can't help it. Apologies again. Enough of me rambling about Yukimura and how great he is. As I was saying, in these 2-3 years that they work on this farm, they get really close to the harvest. When the slave hands see that, they ruin the farm out of jealousy, and that sparks the first time that Thorfinn uses violence in that season. He punches the shit out of one of them, in the process of that gets knocked out to the nightmare world, or the dream world, whatever you wanna call it. And in here, he sees the same nightmare that he's been having throughout the season. But this time it is a lot more clear. It is basically hell. He sees the fate of the warriors, he meets the people that he has killed, hundreds and hundreds, and he doesn't even remember their names. And also in here he meets a very disappointed Thors, and he meets Ashelad as well. And Ashelad tells him, it's okay if all these murders are hanging on to you, climb and carry your burden, climb and become a true warrior. This is your true battle. So when he wakes up, he's finally not hollow anymore. He has a goal, he will never use violence again, and he will become a true warrior. Oh yeah, and before we move on, I forgot to mention this. When he's getting knocked out, he sees the same lady that showed him kindness in chapter 17, the only person that showed him kindness during that era. And that's such a nice touch. I can't believe I didn't catch that one on the anime. So as this all happens to Thorfinn, on the other side, we see Canute's story as well. In the meantime, Canute has become the king of England, and soon after he becomes the king of Denmark as well by poisoning his brother. You could argue that he's doing it for the greater good, but his methods are really close to what Swain would do. And he himself knows that. He hallucinates Swain permanently. He talks to him. He's kind of his therapist. So after Canute gets Denmark, he needs money to feed his army. But he can't just raise the taxes, so he comes up with a plan that doesn't piss off the masses by sacrificing the select few rich people. And Ketil is one of these people. Is it Ketil? Ketil? I've been butchering these names, man, my fault. And these events kind of start a domino effect to the season finale. But before that, I gotta talk about Ketil and Arnheid. Ketil is a really good man, or I shouldn't say that. Yukimura doesn't really do good or evil, they're just humans with depths to them, with emotions. And Ketil is definitely a man with empathy. He's not a bad man. He gives his slaves a way out, he gives them hope, he doesn't treat them like shit. He's not a bad man. A bad man doesn't treat his slaves like this. You have to realize it is not the norm to be like this. The norm is to treat them like your property. The norm is what we've seen in these two seasons. And we really get a better look on him as a character when the two children with no father steal from him to feed their family. So when they get caught, he's very against punishing them because he gets it. He gets how hard it is to survive with no breadwinner. When he hears their story, he legit tears up. He tries to not give them any punishments. His son is like, yeah, let's cut their arms off, but he gives them a lighter punishment, and even that takes a toll on him. He might be a coward, but he's a kind coward. He's just a man who hates violence. He's scared of it. He's scared of his own son. And there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. And the only person that he truly opens up to is Arnheid. And if you don't remember, Arnheid is the slave lady that is truly kind to everybody. And she's Ketil's lover. She doesn't really have a choice, so I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but English is not my first language, so I don't know how else to put it. So she gets pregnant with Ketil's child, but that's not the issue. The issue starts when her husband, who is another slave, escapes from captivity and kills his captors, and comes back to get his wife. But Arnheid is insanely conflicted. She doesn't know if she wants to run away or stay. She's pregnant. Ketil isn't the worst master. Her life is decent enough for a slave, obviously. Also, she has already experienced how bad it feels to lose it all. She has already lost her children, her husband. She doesn't want that to happen again. And Godar, her husband, doesn't seem to be in the best state of mind. He seems kind of crazy, which is probably normal after years of slavery, and I doubt that his master was nice to him like Ketil, cause he killed them obviously, so it can't be that good. But at the end of the day, she chooses to run away. Freedom is a lot better than a false sense of security. And Godar is the man that she loved. She wants freedom, she wants her family back, she wants her life back. But sadly, they get caught, and that is the breaking point for Ketil. With the combination of this and Canute invading his land to get it, he loses it. He beats her up so badly that she dies the next day. And her death is one of those scenes that will stick with you till the rest of your life. She is the reason, her death is the reason that Thorfinn wants to create Vinland. When she's dying, she's like, why do I even have to keep on living? It's just pain, slavery, war. Is there even a place where none of these exist? Is there even hope? And I agree, man, humans need hope. She's right, I get it. So as she's losing her life, Thorfinn tells her about Vinland, a place across the sea, a place with no war, no slavery, a place of peace. So her death becomes the catalyst for Thorfinn and Einar to try to create this land of peace, to create a country with no wars, with no slavery, a land of peace, a land of hope. A salvation other than death for people like Arnheid who have lost it all. Thorfinn might have told her the story of Vinland just to put her at ease in her last moments, but this turns into him and Einar's actual goal. And I love this scene, especially after reading the manga. When you get to the last arc of the manga, this scene becomes so much better, man. It ages like fine wine. So now let's move on to the climax of this season, which is the most iconic part about this season, maybe even the whole manga. So after losing his mind, Hild wants to fight back. So he tallies up all the people that have debts to him, which is a reasonable amount of people. It's like 350, and that is 3 times the amount of people that Canute has brought. But these are all amateurs, and Canute has brought professionals. It's like 350 babies versus 100 hydrogen bombs. With the exception of Thorgil and the guests, which are like 8 people, 9 people. So obviously they get annihilated. Thorgil uses this as a distraction to try and kill Canute. He gets really close to it, but ultimately fails. And the only reason that there is survivors in this battle is because of Snake. He forces them to retreat. Hild still wants to fight, but he's like, yeah, no, we're retreating. And in the process of that, Hild gets severely wounded. And this all happens around the same time of Arnheid's death, so Thorfinn is like, yeah, I'm not leaving yet, I have to fix this. If I'm going to build a country of peace, I can't just ignore this. So he goes there to talk to Canute, but he's obviously ignored. Nobody believes that he has any relations to him. So the only peaceful route that he finds to meeting with Canute is taking 100 punches. And he does the Kakukayo technique from Baki to survive all these punches. I don't know if Yukimura actually intended to do a Baki reference here. He's known to do references. He probably didn't intend it in here, but in my headcanon, he did. Anyways, before I go too deep in my headcanon, let's move on. After Thorfinn takes all these punches, everybody there respects him. Even the person punching him, he's like, yeah, sorry for ever doubting you. You are a true warrior. And when they ask him, why didn't you just beat him up to prove your identity? He's like, who the fuck beats someone up for peace negotiations? That is so backwards. And he drops the best goddamn speech in this season, in this whole anime. Man, I can't rank these no more, man. Every single one is so good. I can't. After this speech, Canute agrees to talk with Thorfinn. And they realize they are very similar to each other. They both, in a way, are trying to create a paradise. They're just going in different ways about it. But at the same time, it is true that Canute has kinda become a lot crueler. He's using his powers in places that are not that necessary, like poisoning his brother, or even this Kettle farm incident. In a way, the floating Swain head is there to remind him to not become like him. It could be his inner voice, or at least that's what I think. So during this conversation, Canute is not letting go of the farm. He's like, yeah, I want it and I'll take it. What will you do, Thorfinn? And Thorfinn is like, okay, you give me no choice. I will run away. And that was Canute's laughter. That's not how I laugh. I actually brought my cat to do that laughter. I'm too manly to do that kind of laughter. And this answer legit breaks Canute. He's like, you are the worst peace negotiator ever. You came in, got beaten up, and just asked me to not attack the farm, and you didn't have no traps or nothing. And this changes things. Canute has never experienced someone like Thorfinn. Someone who just earnestly wants peace. And someone who is willing to create a country of peace through peaceful means for people that get trampled because of Canute's peace. Holy fuck, I said peace way too many times. And this literally just changes Canute's mind. He is like, okay, I won't make your job harder than it needs to be. So he withdraws his army and leaves the farm alone. He finally has a companion that is working towards the same goal in different means. It's someone who actually understands Canute. Someone who's filling up the hole that Canute is leaving behind. It is just actual peak cinema, and that is the ending of this season. But before I move on to the last 2 arcs of this manga, there are some little details that I want to talk about. The first one is character development, and I know there are lots of it in this season and the whole manga, but there is a character that gets slept on, and that is Olmar. I just like how the same events that broke Kettle turned Olmar into a man. It is a really nice contrast and really good storytelling. And the second thing is, I know, I've been ignoring Leif. And the reason for that is because I thought it was best to talk about him on the 3rd arc of this manga, but he still does play a very crucial role in season 2. In all these 10 years that Thorfinn has been missing, Leif has been chasing right behind him. He wants to bring his friend's son back. And in all these years, whenever a slave named Thorfinn pops up with the same description as Thorfinn, he just goes running. I just love this character, man. He's definitely the third father figure of Thorfinn, and the one that we all would love to have in our lives. And let's not forget that he's the reason that Thorfinn even knows about Vinland. He planted the idea of Vinland in his head. He gave him hope. He is the reason that Thorfinn is who he is today, and he plays a really big role on the 3rd arc of this manga. which is what I'm moving on to. But before I do, if you haven't read it yet, obviously click the fuck off. There's going to be spoilers. I'm going to do a lot less recapping, but I can't talk about something without spoiling it even a little bit, man. It's hard to do. So this arc starts with Thorfinn going back to home to Iceland, and he's there to gather funds to create a country of peace in Vinland. The only person in Iceland who has the funds to help Thorfinn is Halfdan, the fella that we saw very early on in the first arc of the manga. When Halfdan hears Thorfinn's proposition, he doesn't just outright give him the money, he gives him narwhal horns, which are extremely common where they are, but in Greece they fetch a crazy price because they are believed to be unicorn horns. It's kind of a scam, but you know, we move, they just hustle it. So with these horns secured, they start the journey to Greece. It's Leif, Bug-Eyed, Einar and Thorfinn. Oh, and there's also an unexpected guest named Gudrid. So let's talk about her. Gudrid, very much like Thorfinn, has been growing up hearing stories about Leif's adventures. So from a very early age, she wants to be a sailor, an adventurer, just like Leif. For years, she has been trying to force Leif to take her on an adventure. But it doesn't go her way because it is the 1000s and females are just expected to cook, clean and be a housewife. Good old days. It was a joke, man. There goes my 1% female audience. You idiot. Was it worth it? So anyways, as Thorfinn and the boys are getting ready to depart, Gudrid comes there and tells them she wants to go with them. She tells Leif he would take her if she was a male, and it was not her choice to be born a woman, and Leif even agrees with her. But thankfully, my feminist goat Thorfinn is there and he agrees to take her. And it's not like she has any place to go back to. In the process of running to Leif, she might have stabbed her husband in the day of their wedding. And I genuinely respect her for that. She's a goddamn gigachat. She wants to be an adventurer and she will. It's not like she loved her husband, it was set for her by Leif and her parents. And there's a little detail that I forgot to mention. This husband is Halfdan's son Sigurd, who will be chasing after the gang for the next 66 chapters. So as the gang starts this journey, along their way, 2 more people joins their crew, with the first one being a baby named Carly. This baby is rescued by Thorfinn when he hears there was a war nearby, and he's legitimately the sole survivor. I guess he has a dog too. She counts as a character. She's more than a character actually. Scrap what I said earlier about 2 new crew members, make that 3. So after they rescue Carly, they try to give him to his closest relative, but they don't want him, because that could get them involved in the war. So ultimately they try to find someone to take him in, but when they do, they are way too attached to this baby, so they take him in themselves. What I truly enjoyed about this part of the manga was learning about values of Norsemen, and how fucked up it was at the time. The reason that the relatives didn't take Carly in is because Carly is a boy, and the Norsemen have an obligation to avenge their slaughtered kin. If they don't, they are cowards and outcast from society. And it is with reason. It is murder for peace. And what I mean by that is whenever someone is committing an act of murder, he is going to think twice before doing it. What if their king comes back and avenges them? It creates consequence. It is a fucked up system, but it's a system that makes sense. So now let's move on to the third character and how we meet her. Very soon after getting Carly, Thorfinn and the gang gets attacked by a bear in an island. Thorfinn tries to fight it with a dagger, he almost dies, but a female hunter comes in and saves the day. After this situation, they converse a little, and that's where she realizes that she has history with Thorfinn. So she tries to kill him, gets really close to it. Honestly, not really close, she could just kill him. It's a single trigger away. The only reason that she doesn't kill Thorfinn is because she hears what he has to say. She hears that he wants to atone for his sins by living, by creating this land of peace, by building a peace which is greater than the destruction he has caused. And that won't bring her family back. Remember that I said she has history with Thorfinn? Thorfinn killed her father while working for Ashalad, and even dropped some banger lines that would go hard on a shonen manga, but in here, you kinda feel disgusted by it. Isn't that crazy how that works? So in her rage, she still wants to shoot Thorfinn, but she's stopped by her father's spirit. And it's not like she's forgiving Thorfinn, she wants to see if what he's saying is true, if what he will do is going to bring her peace or not. And at this point, Thorfinn doesn't own his life anymore, it's in Hild's hands. Whenever she feels like Thorfinn is straying from his path, she will just shoot him, and Thorfinn even agrees with this. So from this point on, she follows Thorfinn till the rest of the manga. Her relationship with Thorfinn is very similar to Thorfinn and Ashalad, just reverse the roles. And I know at the beginning of this video I said Ashalad was my favorite character, but I'm taking it back. It is Hild. Yukimura just writes female characters so well, man. I know I've been writing him like he's a hog and I'm a fellow with a mullet, but this man just doesn't miss. Like, there are so many well-written female characters in this manga, man. Gudrid, Arnheid, Hild, Halfdan's wife, yes, even Halfdan's wife. Oh, and how could I forget Helga, the lady who turned Thors into the man we all respect. I just love seeing the perspective of females when it comes to war, because they are the ones that lose the most to it. They lose their husbands, their children, in some cases their freedom, and I feel like that is such a good perspective to have, because normally it gets ignored. Okay, now that I've done the mandatory female section to get back the 1% female audience that I've just lost, let's move on to the later parts of this arc. As the crew tries to continue their journey, Thorfinn's past catches up to him. So they find themselves in the middle of a war between two factions of the Yom's Vikings, with one of those factions being Floki, who's trying to get his grandson to be the next boss of Yom's Vikings, and the other faction is led by a chieftain named Van, who hates Floki. So when he discovers that Thorfinn is alive, he brings him in, tells him about Floki and how he is the culprit behind Thor's death. Thorfinn loses himself in rage, but only momentarily, and this marks the beginning of Thorfinn's hardest battle yet. The battle to not kill Floki, which would have been easy if he didn't get roped back into meeting with him. He doesn't want to see him ever again, he wants to just leave. He wants to be a kinder person, a more gentle person, but sometimes life forces you into meeting with the fellow who killed your father, and when it does, all you can do is not kill him, at least for the sake of his grandson. Balder is a great character. He didn't choose his grandfather to be this piece of shit motherfucker Floki. If Balder didn't exist, kill him, man. I'm there, I'm helping you. Fuck the character development. I hate this motherfucker that much. My bad, I was editing and listening to what I was saying and I kinda got way into it. What I'm saying is true though. Balder is an amazing character. He's just forced into being in this position. He doesn't want no chieftain position, he just wants to fish. He just wants to be somewhere which isn't here, and that is fucked because every other character with the same mindset have lost it all and are looking for any kind of hope. Now imagine a little kid feeling like that and how fucked up that is. Towards the end of this arc, Balder thinks about unaliving himself, because his grandpa will just take and take and take for his sake. But he doesn't want this life, it is just forced on him. I just love Balder's story and him as a character, and as much as I like him, I hate his grandpa. Listen man, I said Vinland Saga doesn't really do good or evil, and you can get every single character, like you can relate to them. But this fucker called Floki, I don't get him, he is evil, may God drop a piano on his fat forehead. As much as I hate him though, he's necessary for Thorfinn's growth, he's the last step in Thorfinn's character development. So when Thorfinn becomes the chieftain and doesn't kill them and just banishes them, it is a respectable choice. And after that, Thorfinn basically disbands the Yom's Vikings and continues his journey to Greece, which happens off screen. I just wish we could have seen a bit more of it. And that's this arc's ending. But before I move on to the next arc, there are lots of characters and events that I've skipped, and I want to talk about some of them, so let's get to it. So there has been a character archetype that I've been ignoring, the Thorkel type, yes, even Thorkel himself. Characters that are hard to understand, like Thorgil, Garm, I can't understand them, even an ex-warrior like Thorfinn can't. Probably nobody can, other than themselves. These are characters who have a very different mindset compared to your typical warrior. They enjoy fighting, they do it for the sake of fighting. Your typical warrior fights for a reason, be it spoils of war, religious reasons, or whatever, so they are a lot easier to deal with, you can reason with them. But characters like Garm are insanely hard to deal with, as we see it in this season with him and Thorfinn. Garm is basically the instigator for all the events in season 2 just because he wants to fight Thorfinn. He doesn't care which side wins, he just wants strong opponents to fight. And Thorfinn is on the top of that list. So when he finally forces Thorfinn into a fight, it is one of the best scenes in this arc. He hits Garm with a double trouble fodder combo using both Ashalad's and Forze's moves. He throws away his dagger just like Forze when he was facing Ashalad's crew, and he does the same move that Ashalad used on him to just beat him up easily. It is just great to see, man. It's like he just took all the wisdom from his father figures, and this kind of just proves that he sees Ashalat as a father figure even though he hates the thought of it. Back to what I was saying though, characters like Garm and Thorkel aren't the main reason that you read this manga, but they sure are a nice treat whenever you get them. Like, I would be lying if I said I didn't giggle every time I saw Thorkel on my screen. He even has a Shining reference. Here's Thorkel. Okay, we're almost done with this arc, but there is a father and son combo that needs to be talked about, okay? Sigurd and Halfdan. So, I'm gonna start with Halfdan, but he's not like Sigurd. He doesn't have one of the best character developments in this series. He's just a character that you get to understand in this arc, which is pretty neat because none of us thought that we would ever see him again after we saw him in like chapter 2 or 3. He's definitely an understandable character, but is still a piece of shit, even though he has this little windows of hope and humanity, which makes him a lot more relatable. But compared to his son, he is nothing to write home about. Unlike his father, we don't understand Sigurd. Sigurd starts to understand himself during this arc. Like at the start of this arc, Sigurd starts as a Halfdan Jr., just a mini Halfdan. But as we progress through this arc, he gets put through a shit ton of situations. From his boat being stolen, to his wife liking another man, into being taken into slavery, fighting a war side by side with legends like Thorkel, and all these events all together evolve him as a character. He turns into one of my favorite characters. I wouldn't mind a full-on Siggy spin-off manga, I don't care, and he's Siggy now, okay? We're boys now. At the end of this arc, he has the power to force Gudrid into coming back with him. But instead of that, he gives her a choice. He gives her freedom. The freedom that he yearns for in his heart. The freedom that he has never had because he's Halfdan's heir. And Halfdan, as we know, is a control freak. But not in a completely malicious way, which we see in his conversation with Thorfinn about the wounded bird. And in that conversation, Thorfinn was right. Every living being will choose freedom over safety inside of a cage, which is proven to be true even for Siggy. When he comes back home empty-handed, he fights his father for his freedom. He's basically the bird in a cage, and this fight is truly a goddamn masterpiece, man. A fight for Siggy to finally show Halfdan that he has grown up, to show his father his errors, that peace is the most important treasure that a country can have. I mean, I'm calling it a fight, but it's not. It's just a father and son bonding moment. And at the end of it, Halfdan is as proud as a man can be as a father. I can't wait for this shit to be animated, man. One last note about this arc though. At the end of this arc, Thorfinn and Gudrid get together. And love isn't really something that I'm into in my manga. As a cockroach devoid of love, I feel like it's normal. I might be an incel. I mean an insect. But even me can see that this love makes so much sense. Of course, an adventurous lady like Gudrid falls in love with the only person that treats her not by her gender but by her person. Is that even English? What the fuck did I just say? Last time ever I tried to sound smart. Let's just move on to the next arc. So the last arc starts with the crew coming back to home to gather a crew to go to Vinland. And during this time skip, Thorfinn and Gudrid have gotten married and have their own family now, which is Carly and the dog. Also, when they come back, they lose some of their crew members, which are Bug Eyes and Leif. Leif because he's way too old now, and after going through a war, his body deteriorates a lot faster for some reason. He just ages like 20 years in two. And Bugeyes, well, he never said he was going to go to Vinland. He's rich now. Unless he gets scammed out of all his money. Oh well, yeah, that happens, so he comes back. So as Thorfinn starts to recruit for this voyage, he has some rules, mainly having no tools that are specifically made for killing, which are just swords. And that is a rule that gets broken very early on, because if you are a person in this era, your sword is basically like your smartphone. Sure, you might not be able to take it to class, but you're going to sneak it in anyways. And this one person bringing in swords has a lot of consequences, but that is for the later parts of this arc, so we'll get to it when we do. So because Vinland is an escape, only the truly unfortunate wants to go there. So there are some people that apply, but the one that stands out the most, and my favorite one, is Cordelia. I have seen so many fucked up comments about this character, like, oh my god bruh, a trans person in my favorite manga? How dare you guys? Like, Thorfinn's whole purpose as a character isn't accepting everybody as they are. Look at Gudrid, look at all the characters he interacts with. Like, grow the fuck up, please. Also, her story makes so much sense. It's such a good story as well. Her mother raising her as a girl to protect her from Thorkel, for her to not get involved in war, is such a good story, and it makes perfect fucking sense. And she, as a character, grows so much on you. She has such a good character development in this arc. So as they are getting ready to leave, an argument breaks up between Thorfinn and Ivar, and it is about swords. Which Ivar brings up great points, like there are people in Vinland, they have weapons, they don't speak our language, so it's better to have a balance of power for negotiation, which Thorfinn agrees with. But he still doesn't want to bring swords, because as he puts it, they have this magical power to be drawn. And what he means by that is, it is a lot easier to just stab somebody or kill somebody when you have the weapon specifically made for that purpose. Also, if you get peace through violence, it's never going to be stable. Violence always brings in more violence. So when Hild hears this argument, she gets pissed off. Cause to her, it seems like Thorfinn is blaming his past on the magic of swords, which is not what he is doing, but it kinda sounds like it. I kinda see both sides of the argument, and I feel like it's a really good talking point for this arc. Also, Thorfinn doesn't even have an alternative yet to deal with the natives. So to people like Ivar, this shit sounds like an experiment at the cost of their lives. But very soon after, he finds that alternative after having a conversation with Halfdan, which is peace through trading and dependency. And listen man, I ain't no politician, I don't know shit about politics, but hey man, it makes sense. So as they go through with this journey, they stop at Greenland to fill up on their supplies, and Thorfinn meets Leif one last time in here. And the Leif has aged a gajillion year in this time frame. I mean, it's normal, he used to be an adventurer, but he took an arrow to his knee, So as Thorfinn and Leif catch up, Leif tells him how proud of him he is and how proud Thor's would be. And Yukimura does this scene in such a beautiful way that it hits you in your feels, man. I mean, just look at it. Need I say more? As they continue into their journey, they split into two groups. One goes to Markland and one goes to Vinland. So as they reach to Vinland, they build a settlement and exchange gifts with the natives. Also, the best thing about this settlement is that it's called the Arnheid settlement, because in Greece they bought a statue that looks just like Arnheid, which makes the season 2 finale that much more emotional, which I've mentioned already. So as the Elnu and Nords trade with each other, they become a lot closer, and it really looks like Thorfinn's system might work. But reality is a lot crueler than that. Through a lot of unfortunate events, mainly the Black Plague, which was foreshadowed at the beginning of the journey with the rats boarding the ships, a conflict starts, which is to be expected. Elnu and the Nords are really different, they value different things. But even through that, they showed that they could coexist, they could do this. But with the combination of the Black Plague and a couple of bad actors on the North side, and the nuke magic-induced paranoia on the Elnu side, this conflict escalates. And yes, you heard me right, I said nukes. It's fucking canon in Vinland Saga, I cannot believe I'm saying this, and it makes perfect sense. So as these three situations implode, fear and greed makes war happen. And this war is basically the climax of this manga. But before we get to that, there are some events that I would like to talk about. First off, let's start with Hild. So towards the end of this arc, Hild finally forgives Thorfinn, but the way that it's done is just amazing. She's such a well-written character. Honestly, like, she's head-to-head on character growth with Thorfinn. So the way that it starts is with Carly. Carly has an argument with other kids in the settlement, so he asks for Thorfinn's advice, and Thorfinn just tells him to say sorry before it's too late. Also, he has heard from Bug Eyes that time heals all wounds. When the fuck did Bug Eyes get this wise, man? So the next day when he talks to Hild, he brings these points up. Also, he's basically Hild's son as much as he's Thorfinn or Gudrid's son. So you best believe that she listens to him. And around the same time, she goes bear hunting. As you can remember, she hates bears because bears basically killed her other family. So in this scene, the bear is basically Thorfinn. And just like Thorfinn, the bear doesn't attack people, so she doesn't kill it. Even though it has every right to do so, because the only reason that it's not hibernating is because the Nords invaded its territory, so it has to look for food instead of hibernating. The bear is literally just a parallel to Thorfinn. She could just kill it and pick the easy way out, but she doesn't. She has grown, she has gotten over the rage. Time has finally healed Hild's wounds. And obviously lots of repentance from Thorfinn. So she finally forgives Thorfinn as well. And the scene is amazing. It is done so well. But I just like the stuff that happens before it that leads to the scene just as much, if not more. It is just an insane setup with an insane ending. It is a combination. So the next character that gets his resolution to their story is Einar. When the war starts between Elnu and the Nords, Einar doesn't want to leave. He wants to fight back to protect the settlement. Unlike Thorfinn, he has never killed a man, so he doesn't know the weight of it. So he sits back and fights for what he thinks is right. And through that, he gets his first kill and realizes the weight of it. I have seen online people comparing him to Ketil, which is true to a degree because he does lose it, not to the same extreme, but he does. Unlike Ketil though, he realizes his mistakes. Whenever Thorfinn comes back to make peace, he is the one that makes sure that it happens, even though it costs him his life. And his death is one of the heaviest scenes in all manga. And I might have been cutting onions while reading it, I must admit. But the best part about Einar was him realizing how much weight Thorfinn has been carrying around all this time. Even though for a very brief time, he was the only one that fully understood Thorfinn. And I could never hate Einar for what he did. Most of us would do a lot worse. If I'm 25% of a man like Einar, I've made it in life, I'm happy. Also, Einar isn't the only one who regretted this war. Most people did, even the shaman dude whose name I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce. And can we just appreciate how well that character is written? Sure, I hated him at start as well, but towards the end of it, you can see his point of view. Shit, if I'm the shaman, I'm probably doing the same if I don't know Thorfinn. And as soon as he gets to know Thorfinn, he regrets his decision. Sure, it's late, but like, can you blame him? He saw nukes in his fucking magic dream. So now let's move on to the ending of this manga, which I feel like some people would dislike, but for me, that shit was perfect. And if you have read the spoilers, aka history, you kinda expect this ending. I haven't, I can't read anything without pictures. As we all know, the Arnheit settlement fails. When Thorfinn gets shot by the Elnu, he's in a really bad condition, so he starts having nightmares and dreams. And for the first time, we see a dream different than his typical dream. Although he sees the people that he has killed again, they aren't disappointed in him. They don't believe that this was a failure. It's going to be a long journey, a really long one, a one that goes past Thorfinn. His descendants will try to make it happen. People that get influenced by Thorfinn will try to make it happen. Which includes you too, yes, us. It includes the readers too. It is for a better future. Sure, Vinland Saga might have ended, but the journey is far from over. It is literally planting the seeds for a better future, which legit happens in the last chapter. And some might say the message is bigger than the ending itself. Which is true. In 20 years time, I might forget details about Vinland Saga, but I sure as hell won't forget its meaning. That doesn't mean I'm going to just automatically turn into a good person. I'm still a piece of shit, but at least I'll think twice before doing my evil deeds. The reason why I love Vinland Saga so much is because I legit feel what the characters feel. I would love to be someplace that's not here other than this shithole. I mean, I'm a roach. It's where I belong, but I'm trying to get out. But even if I wasn't, Yukimura does such a good job of showing every kind of perspective, you would feel what the characters feel. Like, one of my favorite chapters of Vinland Saga is chapter 154, which is a point of view of a dying random Viking, which has nothing to do with the story, like in the grand scheme of things, but it is definitely one of the best chapters of Vinland Saga, which I didn't even mention in season 3 for some fucking reason, cause I'm a brain-dead idiot, I guess. But like, it shows you the full point of view of a warrior that believes that they will go to Valhalla and they're not. Which is fucked up, but you legit feel everything that this character is feeling. You feel his agony, you feel his disappointment, you feel his camaraderie. It's just insane. Yukimura just knows how to make you feel his character's emotions, which in my opinion is his greatest strength and why Vinland Saga is such a special manga. Sorry, I had to talk about that before ending the video. I feel like there are so much I've skipped over because in my head this video was going to be 20 minutes long. Yeah, fuck no. So if I skip over anything, don't feel like I don't think it matters. I legit don't write scripts, so I just freeball it. And the only notes I take are useless. Take a look at this. Yeah, I deadass wrote damn for 2 chapters. That helps a lot, Arvin from the past. 2, you donkey. So as you can tell, I'm not one of those YouTubers with 5 PhDs that make the deepest analogies. I go with vibes. So if I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me. And that's about it. Love you, Yukimura, for this fucking masterpiece. Fuck you, Gigak, for meeting with Yukimura because I'm jealous. And that's about it.